Shalom, shalom lekulam. Welcome back to the Itty Bitty Yud. After a little vacation, we're going to move on to part 4 today. Just as a little review, in part 1 we discussed the Yud as a prefix, and it always means a third person, masculine singular, imperfect. He will do something. In part 2, we discussed the yud as a suffix, and it has many uses, the first of which is the personal pronoun my. We looked at the singular usage when the noun is singular and when the noun is plural. In the third part, we looked at some of the prepositions, and we've seen this with the other letters that we've looked at with the hey and with the vav. Remember, when the hey is in the suffix as a personal pronoun attached to a preposition, it has to do with her or she or to her. The vav has to do with him, and the yud has to do with me. To me, in me, on me, under me, these will all be represented by the yud. In part 4, we're going to look at a similar usage that we've looked at before, and that is when the first person is the direct object and attached to the verb. So let's go to the scripture. Bamidbar Kaf Gimel Pasuk Sheva, Numbers 23, verse 7. V'yisa mishalo vayomer min aram yancheni Balak melech Moav meharei kedem lecha arali Yaakov ulecha zoama Yisrael. Shir Hashirim Bet Pasuk Arba, Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 4. Heviani el Beit Hayayin v'diglo alai ahava. In the Numbers passage, this is from the story of Balaam and Balak, and Bilam the prophet is beginning one of his parables, and so he says, from Aram Yancheni, he led me. And who led him? Balak, the king of Moab, led him. So the root there for the verb is nun chet hey, and the nun and the yud that we see at the end is me. He led me. The hey of the root drops out. In the second example is a very well-known verse from Song of Solomon. He brought me to the house of wine. His banner over me is love. Again, another idea of being brought. This is from the root mevi, which is bet yud aleph, and it's in the hifia, but we see the end, the nun and the yud make me. He brought me. Breshit Kaf Daled Pasuk Sheva, Genesis 24, verse 7. Yahweh Elohei Hashamayim asher lakachani mi Beit Avi ume'eretz moladati ve'asher diber li ve'asher nishba li lemor leza'archa eten et ha'aretz hazot hu yishlach mal'acho lefanecha ve'lakachta isa livni misham. Yeshayahu Samech Pasuk Echad, Isaiah 65, verse 1. Nidrashti lolo sha'olu nimtzeti lolo vikshuni amarti hineni el goy lo korah vishmi. In the Genesis 24 passage, Abraham is talking to his servant Eliezer, and he's given him some instructions to go get a wife for Isaac. And I've highlighted a few letters here so that we can see, go over some of the things we've already learned. So the first one that is highlighted is the nun yud after lakach, lakachani. Lakach means to take, and Abraham's talking about the God who took him. He says he took me. So that nun yud at the end is the direct object. He took me. From the house of my father, Avi. Av is father. This is a personal pronoun, possessive, my father. Eretz Moladeti. Moledet is the land of one's birth, and the yud at the end is my birth, the land of my birth. And he talked to me. That li there is a pronoun, lamed, to, and the yud at the end means me, to me. And towards the end, he says, get a wife, take the wife for my son, live ni. The lamed is to, ben, we know is son, and the yud at the end is for my son. In the Isaiah passage, we see the first example is a direct object of the verb bikesh, to ask for, to seek for something, and it's bikshu ni, they looked, nun yud, for me, or they sought after me. And I said, hineni. Hine is a preposition, here, and the ni at the end is here I am. Hineni, hineni, here I am, to a nation that did not call bishmi. The bet is in. Prepositions, we've talked about this many times. Prepositions don't translate very well language to language. We would say to call on. Shem is name. And the yud at the end is the personal pronoun my. They did not call on my name. Another use for the final yud is an adjective marker, and it's used only with some very specific things. And the first thing that we're going to look at here is nationalities. Bereshit Yud Daled Pasuk 13. Genesis 14, verse 13. V'yavo hapalit v'yaged l'Avram ha'ivri v'hu shochen ba'alonei Mamre ha'emori achi eshkol v'achi aner v'hem ba'alei brit Avram. Bereshit Kaf Gimel Pasuk Eser, Genesis 23, verse 10. Ve'Ephron yoshev betoch bnei Chet, ve'ya'an Ephron hachiti et Avraham, ve'oznei bnei Chet, l'chol ba'ei sha'ar yiro lemor. So in this verse from Genesis, we see that Avram is ha'ivri. This is the first use of the word Hebrew. He is not so named for being a Hebrew specifically, but he is named here being related to his seventh generation back from him, Eber, that we read in English, and his name is Ever. You know probably that the root of this idea, avar, the verb means to cross over. And so Abraham was the first one to cross over out of his homeland, as we saw in a previous verse, and come into the promised land. But we see the adjective ending, ha'ivri, he is Hebrew. We also see that he is with his friends, and his friend Mamre is an Emori. He's from the tribe of the Amorites. And most of the time when we see this yud suffix being used as an adjective to describe a nationality, these are going to be ites, okay? The second verse that's also there in Genesis, when Abraham is buying the cave to bury his wife Sarah, they are with the Hittites, and we see that in that line, Hachiti, he is a Hittite. Bereshit Yud, Pesukim 16 ad 18. Genesis 10, verses 16 through 18. Ve'et ha'yevusi, ve'et ha'emori, ve'et ha'girgashi, ve'et ha'chivi, ve'et ha'akri, ve'et ha'sini, ve'et ha'arvadi, ve'et ha'tzmari, ve'et ha'chamati, ve'echad nafotsu mishpachot ha'kna'ani. In this last group of verses, which is from the Table of Nations, we're going to see all kind of ites. The Yevusi, or the Jebusites, the Emori, who are the Amorites, the Girgashi, who are the Girgashites, Chivi are translated as Hivites, Arki are Arkites, Sini are translated as Sinites or Sinites, or maybe they're Chinese, I don't know. The Arvadi are the Arvadites, the Tsimari are translated as Zemarites, the Hamati are translated as Hamathites, and also we see these are all the families of the Canaani, who are translated as the Canaanites. So I hope it's useful to you. We have some more uses for the suffix of the yud before we can actually get on to talking about jots and tittles. In the meantime, tasimata einayim al hashemayim, keep your eye on the sky, your redemption draweth nigh. Shalom.